All right, it's good to see all of you. This is a really special day. I'm going to draw attention to our displays over here, and this will mean even more to you as the morning goes on. We have been in a special relationship with First United Methodist Church, Moheto. And now I feel even a closer relationship because I have a new friend. And Pastor, and he said he liked to just go by Pastor King. So that's what I'm going to call him here this morning. He's a graduate of African University and his theological work there. He's been a district superintendent in the Ethiopian and Kenyan conference. And this is his third time he's been appointed to the First United Methodist Church, Moheto. The thing I want you all to be aware of, we're connected not just in friendship, but in mission and ministry. And you're going to hear more about the situation facing young women growing up in Kenya. It's a disturbing story. We're trying to reverse that through our participation in scholarship. Last year, by the generosity of this class, a lot of people from the Inquirer's class and others, our mission council, reconciling ministry, we were supporting 11 young women. Those scholarships, I believe, cost $1,100 a year. Once you go past 14 years of age, you're having to pay tuition. And this not only keeps them in their educational pursuit, it gives them freedom to grow up into the fullness of their possibility. So this is very important. But please go over to the table before you leave. It's so good to see Bishop Cameron here with us. Thank you so much, Bishop, for coming to be here. She served as our bishop. She's one of the reasons I'm here, right?
I am the reason.
So Bishop Cameron and I began some years ago in the Florida conference in the same district. And we were young ministers that thought we knew what we were doing. And we tried. But the real joy today, Pastor Kennedy, thank you so much for being our new friend in Christ and being with us today. And just come and share with us. Good morning. I will have to say for this time. Anyway. I'm a tea sipper, so I'm having my tea as my cook walking up. I want to appreciate the work you are doing in Moheto, especially the entire Church of Central. We would love to hear more about your church and the commitment you've done in our congregation. The journey began all the way before during COVID, and I know that it was not in person meeting, but you made it possible to at least send some students to school. So today I want to share with you briefly on two main items. Though there are many other items which I will be sharing with the board, Parliament board later, but I will focus on two main mission areas that we partner with Central and Moheto. And that is the first area is going to be the health sector. And then the second part will be the area of the scholarship for the students. And I would say that okay. Now we can begin. Let's see I'm running my slides. If I get what I can just push and start. Okay, all right. Now the
the two areas I just mentioned is that the first part of it is going to focus on the clinic, the health sector, and education. I only chose those two parts, and just to introduce myself that our church is a reconciling congregation, and we became a reconciling congregation on the 1st of September. Yeah, that's when we are officially joined the RMN. But our advocacy for inclusion began way back in 2011. And by that time, I never knew RMN, I never knew any organization that actually advocate for the inclusion of the LGBTQ persons in the church. And I found it very difficult to really work on that subject in Kenya. And so for some couple of years, I partnered with United Church of Christ, Bishop Landa and other persons. That was the only church I found which was open. So it was very difficult for us to really go through it as Methodists in Kenya. But by 2014, 2013, 2014, 15, 16, I started developing some relationship with other UMC persons. And then finally, I was able to get to know the MFSA, get to know the Labor Coalition, and get to know the RMN. Then I realized that RMN was the right organization to affiliate with because it actually focuses on the congregation and the development of technology. And so that is how our journey was, and we look into all inclusion of all fraternities in Christian life. Now, I want to talk about health a bit. That the community where I come from, that is Moheto, is very, very rural. When we talk of rural, we mean it's very rural. And I don't know how to describe the rural. Maybe Helen and Kimberly, who are in Moheto, can describe to you what it means to be rural. Because whenever I walk around the United States, I've never seen a rural place which can match our rural. Because even our cities, we will term them rural if they got there. What we consider to be a very big city. And so because of that, where we are in Moheto, we didn't have any clinic. And so we see that in times of epidemics and endemic disease outbreak, patients suffer, whereas others die due to delayed medication resulting from lack of health facility in the village. To share a bit light on that, this what inspired us to start a clinic in Moheto way back in 2006. That in 2006, when a woman gave birth at night and had a delayed placenta and bleeding. In the morning when we tried to help the woman reach the hospital in Gobi, which is 18 to 20 kilometers from Moheto. Actually, we were pushing the wheelbarrow, but unfortunately, we lost her. The moment we reached the main road, we lost her. So when we came back, we thought of a way out of how we could actually come up with a facility, health facility in Moheto. It has not been easy for us to make it go through because we never had any source of funding towards that. So we made bricks as a church and began the journey of having a clinic. And next slide. And so the main purpose of that clinic was to promote healthcare services in the community. Next. Was to promote the health services in the community, provide healthcare services, and also to provide creative healthcare services. And so when the construction continued, last year during COVID, we received a grant from your church, Central UMC, purposely to buy the lab equipment. And we really appreciate because we were able to buy the lab equipment so that we could test. We could do some tests basic test to help in diagnosing the disease. Before then, it's only the doctor who could actually guess. After hearing from the patient, describing, I feel this part, I feel this way, I feel this way, and then just assume and guess it might be malaria. And it might be typhoid. But after we had the basic equipment for the lab, at least it was that's our typing error. It was 2,300 Kenya shillings, which I think must have been 200 and something dollars there. Because this money was sent to the conference account, and it took us long to receive it, and with a series of deductions in it. But that's done. Next slide. Next, please. Now, when you look over there, I'm presenting to you the journey of our clinic. That's how our clinic was. After we lost that mama, so we actually said whether we have a building or no building, we're going to start medication and treatment. And so we could hang the weighing machine on the tree like that. This just locker there, we have removed it because we sank up over at the same point. And then cover the roof with the covers so that we have a shade. Then the next slide shows patients. There are people who are very happy of having a clinic in the community. Whereas you have very magnificent hostels, but this was the best so far for us. And we found it very much good. And so on the other side, now we have our clinic completed, which is known as Moheto Mission Health Center. That is how it is. It's registered officially by the government, and we are providing health care services. And the next slide is showing when new church again supported us to do COVID to vaccine. COVID pandemic actually brought a lot of changes in our society. Lockdown, noise gathering, a lot of things happened. We lost our friends, our family people. And so there are also mystery and myths that came along with the COVID vaccine. And many people were not willing to take the vaccine. Whenever you talk about the vaccination, people shy off because there were a lot of rumors that Africans have been given a wrong vaccine to wipe them off. And so that is what was trending in most of the local social media. So many people didn't want to take the vaccine. But we did a lot of sensitization in the community, right from the church. And in December, when we had a youth camp, a women camp, and girls camp, where we were able to rescue some girls from FGM, we managed to do vaccination. And we were able to vaccinate all the members of the church and people who came. Then later, I have this philosophy that I'm not safe until all of us are safe. So it was not going to be good for only members of the church to be vaccinated and the rest of the community members are not vaccinated. So we again discussed with their group in the element group in this church, and we were able to do community vaccination, where we sensitized the whole community, and the Ministry of Health personnel came. We were able to walk house to house. Some came in the clinic, and others were able to walk house to house doing vaccination, and it was successful. So we were able to get the J&J vaccine, which all people were vaccinated in December. That is the next slide is showing us the basic of our wards. That's all that we have for any inpatient who comes to that clinic. It's just a bed to sleep and the doctor who can administer to you the drugs. So we are still in a very basic state of the clinic. And the next slide, I just want to show you about the challenges that we are facing and that which we have in relation to health. We are experiencing great challenges in the clinic based on maintenance of the nurses. Our clinic is not capable of raising enough funds to pay nurses serving the clinic, and as a result, we lose the nurses to highly paying facilities. The big challenge is that being in the very rural sector, people come from, when people are sick, they come to the hospital. We treat them. But when it comes time to pay the bills, they say they have nothing to pay. Some offer to leave their ID, national ID, in the clinic so that they go look for money to come and pay. And sometimes they go and go because after all, the ID, some people have never used their ID in anything. So it makes no value for him. So that's what happens. So we have loss of debts, unpaid debts, because for one, we cannot do a bill for a patient before treatment. It is after treatment that you're able to say, to know that what have we used in treating this patient and how much does it cost. So at the end of the day, we find that we are then out of money even to pay the nurses. So at one point, we had a grant of 1 year to pay for the nurses from First Church, Everstone. Our argument was for 1 year, and we did that, hoping that we will be able to start on our own. But unfortunately, it was not possible. So after the grant period was over, what we had saved, we were able to pay the nurses for 7 months, and it was depleted. All our nurses walked away to go and look for other jobs. So we have members of the church who are nurses. So what happens is that wherever we have patients, they volunteer to come and help, and go back to their places of work. And so this is a very big challenge that we have. And because right now, the Ministry of Health is paying them good amount of money, 70,000 to shillings, that's about $700. And that's community nurse. We have the level of nurses. And then the assistant nurses are paid about 50,000 shillings, that's about 500 roughly. And so with us, we were paying them 30, which is about $300. So a person will not contain himself or herself in a 300, and then there's a place he can get 500. So they moved away. So that's a very big challenge that we have at the moment. As well as where the clinic is located, has high level of literacy, poverty, and unemployment. This makes it challenging for most people treated in the clinic to meet their cost of bills. Now, most of the revenue we are getting from the treatment, we're using it to buy the drugs and other supplies for the clinic. So our next slide just indicated an estimate of what is actually required to embark on quality services in the clinic. We renew our license annually to the government at 35 Kenya shillings, at 5,000, which is $350. We do this every year. Like now in December, from December 1st to December 15th, we are supposed to renew our license in order to provide healthcare services. So there's need to have one clinical officer in the facility and 2 registered nurses and 4 assistant nurses. Why we talk of 2 registered nurses? So that and 4, one can work daytime, 1 nurse and 2 assistant nurses at night, and the other could work at daytime. So they could alter. If this week you are on the day shift, the next week you will on the night shift, so that they don't burn out of the work. So we estimate the estimate would be if we pay them $400 per month. One that's a clinical officer. Mostly clinical officers work daytime. We rarely find them work at night, but unless it's an emergency that calls for them to be there. So that's why we hope to just have one clinical officer. And then nurses, if they get $350 per month for the two nurses, we bring to 700, which is 840, 8,400 for 1 year. So, and then the assistant nurses to get $200. That is the basic. That's the basic that they receive. Here we have not included the house allowance and the rest, because that in the government and well-established organization they do that. But here we purpose that to be able to have a place where they can stay inside in the compound, so that they don't be far away from the facility. And the supply, we were using 500, that is 50,000 on monthly basis when we were actually operating actively to buy some of the supplies. Because some of them are disposable. They are one-time use, and once you use them, you're not able to use them anymore. And so that is the outline basically for the health facility. Unless someone could I finish, or someone has a question so that we will go to the next stage. Because next stage is education. Okay, let's go to the education part. Well, I was aware that we know that education is both the act of teaching knowledge to others and the act of receiving knowledge from someone else, and that it is an activity which takes place in many diverse venues and is intended to develop knowledge, understanding, valuing, growing, caring among many. It has become a challenge for many to achieve this vision. And the aim has been to raise up a generation of young people who will commit their life to be an agent of positive change in the world and be characterized by intellectual excellence, moral and spiritual courage, and the holiness of heart and life. This has become a dream to many, as they are not able to fulfill this dream due to factors beyond their control. Natural calamities such as floods, drought, diseases, and political instability, which often end up in war. And war has rendered many families and children either homeless, orphaned, or remain as child-headed boys. And majority of the families live below a wage of $1 a day. There are some factors. Next slide. Next. I want to highlight some of the factors that really affect education in our society. This is for both boys and girls. Though we emphasize mostly on girls, and I will highlight to you why we emphasize on girls mostly. I would say a major deterrent to girls' education is near universal fundamental culture bias in favor of boys. Also, the social cultural factors. Let me point out that my understanding is that sometimes we blame Africa so much, especially the West, blames Africa so much for whom we are. And I would say that to a large extent, we are whom we are because of what has been handed over to us. What was handed over to us, what we learned from those who came, if I say in quote, civilians, yeah, I'm saying in quote, to know what? Civilians. They handed over to us that kind of culture, which was to tame us to be able to be colonized properly. And so after that, we have remained, continuing to propagate the same culture which was handed over to us. So my understanding is, for us to really remove this culture that has been embedded in us for centuries, we must start unlearning it. And the best way of unlearning this culture is targeting the young people. Because the old people, like myself and my parents, it may not be easy to change us. If you change us, we are there for a short season. But when we are able to target a change right from the younger generation, then we are sure of a free and liberal generation to come. And the only tool that can also do all this is education. Because when there's education, we are able to differentiate between myths and facts. There are myths which are not facts. And without education, we may measure on myths and propaganda and fail to embrace the truth which is there. Just for example, in health, we talked about vaccines. Where in a society where the education level is very low, when a person comes and says, stop, don't take this vaccine, all people will obey that. Because they will believe, because you are learned, you know what you are telling us is the truth. But when we educate the young people, they'll be able to think it and say, no, you said this, but let us see. Let's think again. That way we'll be able to liberate ourselves. There are cultures like FGM, female genital mutilation. We were born and we found it going on. The culture embraced it as a normal passage to adulthood. But we have realized that this is not the right way of doing passage, because it ended up leaving young girls in a serious problem. When they grow up to become women, they have multiple problems. We see all of these cases when they come to deliver. Women tear up seriously. They overbleed because of the scars left. And I know you know the mystery about that. And the culture holds it that once a girl has undergone FGM at the age of 13, 14, she's a woman, ready for marriage. And so if this cycle continues, we realize that we'll be having a generation which is not changing. It's the same generation going back while others are moving forward. So we have a lot of widespread operation of patriarchal system, of social organizations, of customary early marriages. And that's why we are focusing on girls. Because men with all the boys will always be there to stay. But girls, once they undergo FGM, then the pressure starts mounting for this girl to get married. And so we want to save as many girls as we can. In December, we were able to save 4 girls from this horrendous practice. And we look forward to saving more. And every year we've been saving a number of girls, that organ, so that at least we have a changed society in the future. We have a second factor, which is economic factor. The economic factor, next. As I mentioned before, that almost 75% of the people that in the community I serve are illiterate, cannot read and write. So when you come over there, you have to use 3 languages or 2. And that is why our services will go for more than 2 to 3 hours. Because I have to speak and stop. The next person have to do the same in the vernacular. Because we want to reach all the people. So because of this high level of literacy in the community, you realize that they cannot, after this, obviously, you cannot get a job because of the level if you're not educated. So the society still remains down. So such has economic circumstances, both direct and hidden, caused to a family of sending daughters to school are perceived by parents to be prohibitive in terms of provision of books, uniform, as well as the loss of vital health at home and on the land. What I mean there is that sometimes in a family, you find that you may end up having only the boy go to school, and the girl, because has undergone the FGM, will remain home to help the labor, help the farm, as she waits for a possible suitor to come. And sometimes you wait until it is too late to get a possible suitor. And this is because of the patriarchal predominance invested in girls' schooling as a wasteful, since it benefits the family into which a girl marries rather than her own. The next factor, the next slide, is the geographical factor. Geographical factor is how far our schools are located. I began my schooling when I was age 10. That's when I went to class 1. Yeah, because the school was very far. I could not reach, I could not walk to school and back home every morning and every evening. The school which I schooled, it was it's about 7 kilometers from my home. And so what happened that we have to wait until you grow up when you go to school. And you understand that learning also, if you learn at an old age, many things you may not be able to grasp. Yeah. And so still this is still a challenge up to now to many. So this led directly to difficulties of physical access, which adversely affect girls more than boys. If a school is far away from your home, girls are likely not to go. And sometimes you are needed in school at 6. Sometimes your home is very far, so you have to start your journey maybe around 5 to walk, to go to school in the dark at night. It becomes so risky for girls than boys. The pattern of transportation also affects education provision of girls. The girl child being the weaker sex often fall victim of rough terrain and long distances to go to and from school. Whereas I've seen in your country here, all your roads are smooth. Our roads, it's Helen who can tell you how the roads are. Helen, can you think of how our roads look? Yeah, so you find that sometimes if the school is far, then you have to hire a border. Border is motorcycle transportation. That's a common transportation system that we have in campus. And so you realize that, and some of these border operators, motorcycle operators, we call them border. Some of them are also, sometimes some of them abuse girls. They rape them along the way. And also, because of the nature of the roads, you find that it becomes uncomfortable with the anatomy biological makeup of a girl. The next factor is the health factor that affects education in our system. Health factor, next slide. In general, the effect of poverty and malnutrition on the health of school-age children falls harder on girls than boys. Boys may get preferential feeding, while the girls who have a heavier domestic work loads are more likely to be undernourished. As I mentioned before, the patriarchal system where, for example, if you make meals, then the father of the home has to get the best. The father and the boys have to get the best. And then the women and children have to get the least. You know, we were handed over this culture. It's like a Jewish culture, which only counted men and ignored women. I don't know. But even if they get to school, this adversely affects their performance and therefore retention rates. The last factor that affects is the political and administrative factor. Although policies exist in most cases for such developments, as universal primary education, equal education opportunities in terms of gender and the eradication of gender bias from text and other materials. The political will to carry these through seems to be weak in the face of severe economic constraints in most African governments. I'm saying this, yes, we have very good policies. You can see them online. You can see them written, painted very clearly. But when you come to the reality of the implementation, for example, we have a policy of universal free education in primary school and secondary school. But for that, even the primary school, which is said to be free, it is not free. Because you go to that school, then you are told, well, buy this, buy this, buy this, pay this, pay this, pay for this. At the end of the day, what you are paying for is even more than what you have paid in a private school somewhere. And so, because of that political, and again, our politics are also influenced by the political ones. So because of that, it all sum up together. When you sum up all these factors, they make girl child more vulnerable. However, even boys also have the same challenge. The next slide up is a typical common village life. That's how our villages look like. You find a one house, family, you and animals over there. That's how our village life looks like. I know when some tourists, when they come, they like taking photographs of these kinds, and even worse than this one to portray. But sometimes it breaks my heart. Sometimes it breaks my heart that this is the kind of life that some people live in. So these photographs, I took it when we helped this family with a bag of rice during the pandemic, so that at least they could push on the life. But majority of the people you are supporting currently come from this type of families. I know Leah last time was able to screen for you some of the live interviews we had in various homes, and they are not different from what I'm showing here. Because some of you had seen that, so I thought maybe they're going to be the same lines. That is for families which are at least better off. Next slide. You'll find that at least they have a house of that kind and some iron sheets on top. And that is the majority we have that on top. So this, the next slide is indicating over here. This is a child-headed family. This Mary, the girl over here, is Mary, who is one of the beneficiaries of the scholarships here. The other one is her sister, who dropped off school to take care of the rest. So it's a family. There are 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5. The other small children, those small children, the 2 of them, belongs to this girl. Now she gave birth twice. You know what can happen when the parents go and all die? Some men may come in just to lure you, that they will help you in the process. You find that you are found out pregnant. And so she has 2 children, but now she's still staying with them. She's not yet married, and now this is a child-headed family. But their parents both died of HIV/AIDS. And we also have high rate of cervical cancer, which kills many of the women around. And when I was sharing this about in Connecticut, we are working on to see how we can partner with the Ministry of Health to provide some vaccines, cancer vaccines, to the young girls in schools. And the only challenge has been the myths around that vaccine. As people have been talking a lot of myths about it. That's a vaccine which, when girls are given, will not be able to give birth. And so we are purposed to embark on the ground and do mobilization to see how we can educate people to understand the importance of this vaccine, because that will be able to save a generation to come. Next slide. That's a common, that's the life that our boys go through. And as much as we talk of girls, the same as boys, you have to ensure that you do your garden work. Because some things, some families cannot even raise to buy a book. So you have to ensure that you do your proper digging. And so all this one affects the performance of our student class. Because the time you have spent to do some studies, you're very busy trying to plan something that you can sell. And as I mentioned before, geographical factors, climatic factors. For example, for the past 2 years, we have a very sporadic kind of climatic factors. Sometimes we have excess rain, sometimes we have less rain, sometimes we have drought, sometimes we have locusts. So all this have been affecting the agricultural sector, where most people derive their livelihoods. So this girl is also one of the beneficiaries that you are helping. That's Bill Kids Garden. So my next slide is just sharing with you basically what it takes to send a student in a county school. We have 3 levels of schools. We have national school, which pays higher than what I'm projecting here. And those who, when people sit for KCPE, that's a grade 8 examination, they should score at least 400 marks, 500 marks. That's the maximum. But if you score 400 and above, then you get an admission to the national school. The national schools are well equipped, they're like the schools there. They have everything that you need to learn. The county schools are also equipped, but not to the level of the national. But they're much better, they're good. So people who go to university mostly come from the national schools and county schools. We call them county or extra county schools. When we were making a request to you, we only had students who were in the county and extra county schools, which pay the same fee that are projected here. We didn't have any student who is in the national school. That's why we never projected the fee required for the national school. We have another level called the sub-county schools. Sub-county schools is a school, just a room like this, with a teacher and textbook. So you learn just theoretically, you do everything theoretically. Whether it's biology, chemistry, they just taught this. Then you just describe what you're teaching. So, but the exam they sit for is the same exam. The same national exam is done by the national school, county school, and sub-county school. So in that context, automatically, those in sub-county school are disadvantaged. They can never make it. You rarely get students from sub-county school go to university. So sometimes students, when they see the KCP, they perform and they get admission to the national school. But because the family is poor, cannot afford the cost, the expense of the national school, they opt to go for a sub-county school. So for that, a very capable student is enrolled in the sub-county school. And then after that, your life is shattered. So high school, I always say it is like a very thick blanket that only the few who go through it to university can make it in life. So you find that the rich people, we also have rich people in Kenya. The rich people, the politicians, they will always buy those opportunities in national schools for their children to go and learn. So you find that their children will keep on being getting the good jobs, the government, and also being in good places where other students will always rot on the ground. So, on average, and this fee is subject to change because in December, when we close the schools, we don't know what the Ministry of Health will come up with because we'll be having a new academic year next year. But this has been for the past 3 years the same way it is. It was before the pandemic, it was during the pandemic, and even after the pandemic. So we don't know about next year how it will be. Because we know that there's inflation and things have gone up, so we don't know whether it will be a change or not. But as of now, this is what we are still holding as a true in school. And so we have another plan. Our terms are in 3, term 1, term 2, term 3. Term 1 goes from first week of January to the first week of April. Then they break for 3 weeks. Then term 2 begins on the first week of May up to the last week, the first week of August. Then they break for another 3 weeks. Then they again resume the first week of September and closes the first week of December. So that's how our terms are. So the fee term 1 is higher because there are some things that you pay once in a year. That's why term 1 is higher. Then the 2 terms are equal. That's how it is distributed.
Pastor Kennedy, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we are about 7 minutes from service. I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for everything. Please. So a couple things. One is for folks that are Central folks, we've talked about this, you and I realize that Pastor Kennedy was a pastor of First Moheto, which was the first reconciling ministries congregation in all of Africa and all of United Methodism within Africa. And thanks to the Reconciling Ministries Network, some of the board members are here today, so welcome and we're glad you're here. Thank you so much for what you do. Our Reconciling Ministries team has a setup over there talking about some of the scholarships and things like that. So if you have a moment right before service, please stop by and take a look at that. And Pastor Kennedy, we're thankful for our partnership so far and look forward to more in the future. So thank you for being here and blessings.